Another important issue is disclosure of foreign assets. Now, I've heard severe penalties could be imposed upon taxpayers who fail to disclose foreign assets. How can your company help such people?
You're correct. Not only that, non-compliance can also result in criminal prosecution. The creation of the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act in 2010 aims at combating tax evasion by U.S. taxpayers with investments in offshore accounts. We can also help such taxpayers by making them compliant with the disclosure of their foreign assets. Again, each case is unique in its nature, Marjorie, and we can determine the resolution strategy only after interviewing the taxpayer.
So let's say I have undisclosed offshore assets and income, and now I want to come clean. What can be done in my case?
Well, the very first thing we'd have to do is to make you compliant. That means we might have to file disclosures with the IRS along with amended tax returns that include the foreign income. But it would be a very good move on your part. Let's just put it this way. It's always better for you to disclose offshore income before the IRS finds it themselves.
So if the IRS finds me first, can't I say, hey, I'm ready to disclose everything?
Well, if they find you before you voluntarily disclose, you've lost your opportunity, Marjorie, and it will not make any difference if you want to come clean at that point in time. You might still face severe penalties and prosecution.
Now, many of our viewers are dual U.S. citizens living abroad. They would like to know, are they required to file a U.S. tax return even though their only source of income was from a foreign country they live in?
Absolutely. U.S. citizens living and working abroad, Marjorie, are required to file a U.S. tax return. Having said that, they might end up owing no tax since they would be able to take the foreign earned income exclusion. However, their foreign income is still reportable.
So you mean if I'm living in the UK, I've lived there for many years, I have a job there, I'm still required to file a U.S. tax return?
Yes, as long as you are a U.S. citizen, you will need to file a U.S. tax return and certain disclosures.
Well, this has certainly been informative. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll discuss IRS audits.
Don't let the IRS control your life. If you owe back taxes to the IRS or state tax agencies, call K&K Tax Group. We can help you negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount allowed by law if you qualify. Call K&K Tax Group and avoid wage garnishments, tax liens, and levies. The IRS has recently stepped up their efforts. Now more than ever, you need professional representation. Our former IRS agents and tax attorneys will fight for you. Call 877-395-0305 for a free face-to-face meeting.
Welcome back to the show. Now, let's talk about IRS audits. Many viewers want to know why they should seek representation when facing an IRS audit.
Sure, let me put it this way. Facing the IRS by yourself is like going to court without an attorney. It's always advisable to seek representation depending on the tax matter. The more complicated the tax matter, the greater the chance of an audit taking a wrong turn.
Can you clarify that a bit?
Certainly. What I mean by that is an audit could lead to a criminal investigation very easily. In fact, the IRS gets most of its referrals from tax fraud cases during routine civil audits.
Many of our viewers want to know, what are the most common audit triggers for individual taxpayers?
Right. For individuals, the most common red flags that trigger IRS audits are underreporting of income, Schedule C deduction overload, large charitable deductions, several years of small consistent business losses, and large mortgage write-offs.
Okay, now let's talk about how your company works. Let's say I have unpaid tax debt issues. I call your company, and who do I talk to when I call?
When you call, client services will take your information and pass it on to a licensed representative that will contact you at a convenient time or will set up an appointment for you to discuss your tax matter.
Now, you mentioned a licensed representative. What did you mean by that?
By that I mean a CPA, an enrolled agent or tax attorney. Because the IRS is a federal agency, there are licensed professionals permitted to practice before the IRS. You have to be an active licensed member of the state bar, a certified public accountant, or an enrolled agent.
Now, is it correct to say that your company has experience in multi-jurisdictional issues?
Correct. We can represent you regardless of your domicile.
Okay, so let's say I have your company represent me before the IRS. Now, how long will it take before my tax matter is resolved?
Well, each case is unique in its own nature, and it will depend on the amount of work involved. On an average, we'd say 3 to 8 months.
And how much will it cost me?
Well, that depends on the amount of work involved also, Marjorie. But the advantage of working with our company is that we have a flat fee structure. You pay only one flat fee regardless of how long it takes for us to resolve your case.
Now, another question I have for you is, do I have to owe a certain amount to the IRS before your company will help me?
Right. Generally, we do not take cases where the tax debt owed is less than $10,000. However, every case is unique, and even if we're not able to take a particular case, we might still be able to help the taxpayer with relevant information so that they can resolve it themselves.
So you mean you won't charge me on an hourly basis, and do I have to pay the entire fee up front?
We will not charge you an hourly fee. We'll charge you one flat fee, and we require just a 40 to 60% retainer to start working on your case.
The number to call is 877-395-0305 or log on to kktaxgroup.com. Again, James, thank you for the time and for being with us. For our viewers, if you need tax representation, call 877-395-0305 or log on to kktaxgroup.com. Thanks for being with us here on Tax Resolution.